My stepfather shoved my disabled sister against the refrigerator, then struck her face with his knee, breaking her nose. Bloodied and shaking, she dragged herself across the floor to reach her phone and dialed my number. I sped through a 5-hour storm to reach her. My mother dismissed it as a minor injury. The aftermath still lingers in my mind. My name is Emily, 31, and the images from that night remain etched in my memory no matter how many years go by, how many counseling sessions I attend, or how hard I try to move forward. The vision of my sister crawling across a blood-streaked floor, pleading for help, is seared into my mind. My younger sister, Sarah, 25, has cerebral palsy. It wasn't severe enough to stop her from walking, but her body was delicate, and she moved with a noticeable limp. Her coordination was limited, and emotionally she trusted people more than she should have. Some saw her as vulnerable. To me, she was radiant, pure. She always sought the good in others, even when they didn't deserve it. After our parents split, our mother remarried a man named Carl when I was 16, and Sarah was 10. Carl was brash, domineering, the type who could drain a room's energy just by entering it. He'd slam his fist on the table if his meal wasn't perfect, issue commands like a drill sergeant, and acted as if raising 2 stepdaughters was an unbearable chore. I left home at 18, escaping to college like it was my salvation. I checked on Sarah as often as I could, calling her regularly. But I missed things she kept hidden, things she felt I couldn't change. Carl never touched me while I lived there, but Sarah. She was left alone with him after I moved out, and my mother, she transformed, or maybe she just surrendered. She began echoing Carl's words. If he criticized Sarah for spilling something, she'd sigh and say, "She's always been so clumsy." If he insulted her, Mom would nod along quietly. At first, I thought it was her way of keeping peace. But over time, it became clear she refused to face reality. That night, her call came at 12:48 a.m. I was half asleep when my phone vibrated. Seeing Sarah's name, I answered instantly. All I heard was gasping and sobbing. Her voice, faint and fractured, said, "Em, please come, he hurt me." I leapt out of bed, my body flooded with adrenaline. I pressed her for details, but she only sobbed, saying she was scared that he wouldn't stop. I didn't pack. I didn't even change out of my sleepwear. I grabbed my keys, threw on a jacket, and raced to my car. My apartment was 5 hours away, and a storm was raging. Rain hammered the windshield like gunfire. Visibility was nearly zero, and my tires skidded on the slick roads. But none of that mattered. All I could think of was Sarah, her voice, the fear in it. And a quiet voice inside me whispered this wasn't the first time. I reached the house just after 5:30 a.m., hands trembling as I ran to the door. I didn't knock, I burst inside. The first thing I saw was blood on the kitchen tiles, a dark streak stretching from the fridge to the hallway. My stomach churned. Then I heard a faint whimper. I followed the sound and found Sarah curled up in the hallway's corner, her nose swollen and misshapen, dried blood caked across her lips and chin. One arm dangled uselessly. Her favorite soft socks were stained red at the toes. She looked up at me, eyes wide like a terrified child, not my grown sister. She whispered, "He said I spilled the juice on purpose, that I was taunting him." He pushed me into the fridge. I couldn't stand up. I dropped to my knees, holding her as she cried into my chest. My mind reeled. I wanted to scream, to tear the house apart, to call the police. But first I had to get her out. That's when my mother appeared from the living room, hair messy, clutching a coffee mug as if it were any other morning. "Emily, you're overreacting," she said. "It's just a bruise. Don't make a big deal out of it." I was stunned. I looked from her to Sarah, whose face was battered and swollen, then back at my mother, who had the nerve to roll her eyes. "Just a bruise," I snapped, my voice tight. "She needs a hospital." Now, my mother huffed, claiming Carl was just stressed, that Sarah always exaggerated, that she was being theatrical. Then she turned and walked away. I carried Sarah out of that house, her one good arm draped over my shoulder, and helped her into my car's back seat. She kept whispering apologies, saying she didn't mean to wake me, that she feared I'd be angry. Angry? I could barely keep the car steady, not from the rain, but from the fury burning inside me. At the ER, the nurse took one look at Sarah and rushed her in. They scanned her, took x-rays, and called a social worker. A detective arrived within the hour. Her injuries pointed to blunt force trauma, a broken nose, a fractured wrist, and bruises on her back shaped like fridge handles. Sarah told the truth, everything, the months of verbal abuse, the isolation. The times Carl pushed her or tripped her when no one was around. How our mother always defended him. How she didn't know what to do anymore. The detective asked if she had a safe place to stay. She looked at me. I didn't hesitate. Yes, with me. From now on, she's with me. As I signed the discharge papers, the hospital handed me a bag with Sarah's blood-soaked clothes. I tossed it in the back seat, but it kept catching my eye in the rearview mirror. That night felt unreal, like a nightmare. And yet, it was only the beginning. Sarah stayed in the hospital for 2 days. Between the scans, the swelling, and the endless questions from nurses, doctors, and social workers, I saw a new kind of exhaustion settle into her face. Not physical, but emotional. The kind that comes from being silenced for too long. After her discharge, we drove to my apartment, 5 hours away from that house. From them, she barely spoke during the drive. I didn't push her. I let the silence linger, keeping my hand on the gear shift where she could reach it. Hours in, she placed her trembling fingers over mine and held on tightly. I set her up in my guest room, bought her new clothes, and made soft food since her jaw was sore and bruised. At night, she'd cry in her sleep, sometimes waking to whisper sorry over and over. The first few times broke me. By the 10th, I climbed into bed beside her, holding her until she fell back asleep. The detective called 2 days later. They were pressing charges against Carl, felony assault, battery, and abuse of a dependent adult. Sarah's medical records and statements supported everything. Then came the twist I hadn't expected. My mother refused to cooperate. She told the police Sarah was prone to drama, that maybe she'd fallen, that Carl would never hurt her. This was the same man who once yelled at a server for a slightly overcooked burger, the same man who smashed a glass against the wall when the internet lagged. Yet to my mother, he was a misunderstood saint. The detective's voice was strained when he updated us. "We believe her," he said. "We're moving forward with the case, but your mother's refusal won't help." I thanked him. At least someone was fighting for her. Days turned into weeks. The court date was set. Carl hired a shady lawyer who tried to frame it as a family misunderstanding, painting Sarah as unstable, suggesting she might have injured herself or exaggerated her injuries. I wanted to scream, but Sarah, she stood strong. She testified, her voice soft but steady, describing how Carl slammed her into the fridge, how the shelves dug into her back, how he gripped her neck and drove his knee into her face. She recounted the dizziness, the blurred vision, crawling through shattered glass to reach her phone. The courtroom fell silent. Everyone watched her, except my mother. She sat beside Carl, staring at the floor, dressed in a light gray sweater, looking like she was at a casual lunch. I no longer recognized her. When it was my turn, I spoke about the call, the drive, the state I found Sarah in, the hospital, the trauma. My voice broke halfway through, but I didn't care. The prosecution presented the ER doctor, the radiologist, and a social worker. The defense tried to poke holes, but the evidence was undeniable: photos, scans, medical records. And Sarah's courage, unbreakable. Carl was convicted and sentenced to 4 years. It wasn't enough, but it was something. It stripped away his freedom and branded him for what he was. After the sentencing, I passed my mother in the courthouse hallway. She opened her mouth, maybe to explain or justify. I kept walking. Sarah looked at me and asked, "You okay?" "No," I said, "but I will be, and so will you." We got home, and for the first time since moving in, Sarah slept through the night. Over the next few months, she started physical therapy and joined a local support group. She picked up painting again, something she hadn't done since her teens. Her art shifted, no longer just vibrant flowers and sunny skies. Some pieces were dark, heavy, but honest. One day, I came home to find a canvas on the dining table. It depicted a girl standing at the edge of a burning house, walking toward a hill, holding the hand of a smaller girl with a slight limp. I understood its meaning without her explaining. Weeks later, a letter arrived from my mother. 3 pages, rambling and defensive, until halfway through the second page. "I'm sorry. You can't understand what it's like living with someone like Carl. He scared me too. I thought keeping him calm would protect us all. I know now I was wrong. I failed you both."